Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Pollock, and I am the Customer Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Acumatica times Excel, Bridging the Gap with Velixo, presented by Duffy Cohen. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping items. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. However, throughout the webinar, you can submit any questions you have. If you'd like to submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar, and we'll answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. We're also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees, as well as those who registered but were unable to attend. And finally, we'd appreciate your participation in our poll and closing survey. With that said, we're thrilled that you've taken some time out of your busy day to be with us on this webinar. SWK is here to help you fulfill your vision of a smarter and easier way to run your business by providing you tools, support, software, and industry knowledge whenever you need it. So whether you're here to explore new solutions or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions you have. And lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. Check us out and give us a follow on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube so you don't miss out. Okay? That's enough for me. Let's hand it over to Duffy for the main event.
Fantastic. Thank you for the introduction, Courtney, and nice to meet everyone today. Very excited to highlight our Excel-based reporting solution called Velixo. For today's demonstration, we will go through Velixo. For the first couple of minutes, we'll walk through a PowerPoint presentation. Following that, we'll dive right into our Excel-based reporting solution for the remaining portion of the call today. So really, to get started, what is Velixo? Put simply, it's an Excel-based reporting solution that will allow you to extract all your data from Acumatica and bring it all to life within Excel. In the same idea, you'll have that ability to push your data back from Excel directly into Acumatica. So it will be that push and pull environment. Velixo has been created by an ex-Acumatica employee, Gabriel Michaud. So what you will see today is our product really has been tailor-made to the Acumatica ecosystem. I'm also happy to share that in a very short period of time, just over 5.5 years, we have grown to thousands of customers within the Acumatica ecosystem and have become the #1 rated solution within Acumatica. So really, what was the reason that Velixo came to be? While Gabriel was working at Acumatica, on the product development team, he had many customers who would reach out about their inability to manipulate the reports with the way they wanted to. Not only that, many customers really liked to click on that export to Excel button. But once they did that, they soon realized that they were no longer able to create these reports once and be off and running. This was a constant and repetitive task, and to manually create these reports over and over again. So Gab said, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's work within an ecosystem that folks are already familiar with and just create a plugin into that environment. With Excel being the #1 add-on in the entire world with over 1 billion users, it just seemed like the right fit. What you all will see in the next couple of minutes once we download Velixo for the first time, which is only going to take about 30 to 45 seconds, is that we have added a new ribbon in Excel called Velixo. Once we click on that ribbon, you will see a breadth of functionalities. But I do want to emphasize, customers have that ability to extract all their financials, projects, and generic inquiries. So really, any data that you have in Acumatica, you can 100% bring into Excel. I do also want to mention, all the data that you will see today is live and everything is absolutely refreshable at the click of a button. Again, we are the #1 rated solution on the marketplace. So if you want to take a look after the call just to see some of the reviews and pain points that customers had prior to using Velixo, I would suggest going onto the marketplace itself. All right, so a few items here to mention about the user friendliness of Velixo. #1, we have an unlimited user model. So you don't have to worry if you're 1, 5, maybe even 100 employees who will need access to the solution. We follow Acumatica's model in ensuring everyone who needs access will have access. Lastly, and most importantly, is that we mirror the exact same permission rights that you set up for each individual user in Acumatica once you're using Velixo. So if there's going to be some members on your team who might not have access to budget data or budget screens in Acumatica, you don't have to worry because they would still be restricted when using Velixo. Finally, here you'll see just a sample of some of the organizations that we work with right now. Want to emphasize we absolutely are industry agnostic. We service customers that might be 2 employees all the way to publicly traded companies. And I always like to touch on Acumatica as they themselves have seen the value of Velixo. They're actually using Velixo for their own reporting needs. So without further ado, let's dive into the PowerPoint and let's dive into Velixo itself. I always like to get started with the installation process just so you can see how quick it is to download Velixo to your device. Once you start working with us, the SWK team will send you off a link and you will go ahead and download Velixo to your device. And I do want to emphasize we work with Windows, we work with Mac, we work with Excel online, so you don't have to worry which type of device that you're using. You'll see at this point, Velixo has already been installed. So we're going to go and dive ahead into our first spreadsheet, and then we'll see the power of Velixo. For those of you who see the image below, well, actually behind me, that was actually at the Acumatica Summit a couple of years ago. So if you ever had that opportunity to attend, I would highly suggest to do so. They have many training courses that are extremely valuable. Once you log in for the first time, you will see that there is a getting started sheet. You don't have to worry about this for today because you all have me, but you'll see some of the core functionalities that we will touch on today. So let's go ahead and let me zoom in just a little bit more. As I mentioned, once you download Velixo, you will automatically see that ribbon populate, Velixo. Once we click on that ribbon, you will see a drop down of all the functionalities you'll have access to. So refreshing your data in real time, connecting Acumatica to Excel, drilling down to a unique transaction, which is highly utilized by a lot of the customers. One-click report distribution, pushing your data back into Acumatica, and you'll see the different ways on how you can do so. Outside of that, some additional functionalities, and then support. So let's get started with our presentation today, and no better way to start off than connecting Acumatica to Excel. Let's go ahead and click on that connection manager. We'll add our connection. At this point, it's as simple as plugging and playing your credentials that you use right now for Acumatica when you're logging into Velixo. So the username and the passcode that you're currently using, you don't have to worry. You don't have to put in another username, another passcode. I know how daunting that can be of a task. A few other items to mention on this screen. Number one, that connection name. Just try to keep it as short as possible. You'll notice as I'm building reports out, I'll be referencing this connection name quite frequently. Outside of that, remember me, and Active Directory or SSO for those of you who have a more restricted login, you can fully authenticate with Velixo. So let's go ahead and connect into our environment. And while it's connecting, I do want to emphasize today, we are going through one example of one given tenant. If you do have multiple tenants, you don't have to worry. By any means, you could connect multiple tenants on one spreadsheet. One of our customers, KFC, I believe they have 35 tenants. So we are officially connected, and let's kick off Velixo. I'm going to start this presentation off with a simple trial balance to show you the foundation of Velixo. Following that, we'll dive into a sample pack report, shows you all those functionalities we've added over the last 5 years. First thing we're going to look for, chart of accounts. You can put your accounts one by one, but I don't think anyone here wants to do that, and you do not have to. You'll see right up top, it says Insert Chart of Accounts. We click on that, we'll see our connection. Simply click on Insert, and then all of your accounts populate in real time. I do want to emphasize, this is a dynamic list. If I click on the cell itself, you'll see it is one of those 80 functions we've embedded into Excel. What this will allow you to do is log out of your spreadsheet at any point in time. When you log back in, simply click on the refresh all, and then all your data that has been added, removed, or modified will automatically update based on the filters or date ranges that you have put in place. Next, let's look for our account name. So we'll type equals account name. Once I do so, you'll see a drop-down of the appropriate syntax to input. So that connection will take our account. Let's just go ahead and take all of our accounts. Just like that, all the accounts populate in real time. Now, let's retrieve our ending balance, but before I do so, I'll put a few additional filters in. So we'll look for our ledger, our sub-account, and then our financial period. And we'll look for actuals in this instance. In retrieving our account ending balance, you can either go the same route I already went, where we're putting in a formula, but if you already have that backbone with Excel, simply click on the insert function. And the first thing you'll notice in the category section is that we've added 6 new categories: generic inquiries, projects, general ledger, audit functions, list functions, and writeback. If I click on projects, you'll see every single one of those 40 plus functions that you'll have available. We're going to take the general ledger for this instance, and let's take our account ending balance. At this point, it's as simple as plugging and playing into the appropriate fields. Our sub-account, we're just going to leave blank for now, but you can absolutely consolidate based on your sub-account. And then our financial period. We are ready to click on OK, but before I do so, just note where it says help on this function. Once you click on that, you'll be redirected to our support page. And what you all will notice is that we have an abundant amount of resources. The idea behind Velixo is we want to empower our customers to be able to create reports on their own. You do not have to be a programmer by any means to be able to create your own reports. So for this specific function we're in, you'll see the syntax, the parameters. Let me just scroll down because here you'll see different examples. And this is going to allow you to build these reports on your own. Outside of that, we do have assistance with every single function. I won't go through all of them because that will take quite a bit of time, but you'll see every single function detailed on our support page at help.velixo.com. And finally, you'll see those sample reports. So we're going to be going over one of these reports, but you'll see it's going to be indicated in example reports tutorials. So we have a P&L trial balance worksheet, construction project sample pack, AR aging is highly popular, and a lot of customers like to use this as a benchmark for when they're starting to build their own reports out. So that being said, let's get back to the report. Let's go ahead and click on OK. And let's make this look a little bit better. All right. Fantastic. So we have our actuals, we have our financial period. But let's assume you want to report as of another period. It's as simple as changing the period itself, and you'll see all your values update in real time. You may want to compare one year versus the previous year. You can absolutely do so. Again, just changing that financial period and your values update in real time. You may want to look for that variance. And again, this is not even using any standard Velixo functions. This is just using standard Excel functionalities. And then you'll see everything update in real time. You might even want to compare your actuals to your budget. You might have multiple budgets, and you don't have to worry. It's just on how you've set up your ledger in your account. So let's say we're looking for our budget. It's as simple as modifying that. You'll see the values update in real time. There should be values here, as you'll see. And this is where some of those additional functionalities you see up top, hiding 0 rows, hiding 0 columns, will come into effect as you're building your reports out. Let's just go back to actuals versus actuals, and I will show the last functionality before we dive into that sample pack report. With Velixo, there's 3 different ways on how you can group your accounts together. Let's take a look at the first example. Let's assume we wanted to group 10-100, 10-200, and then 10-300. All I will do is put a semicolon in between those values, copy any one of those 3 line items, and simply paste into the appropriate field, and you'll see the values for those 3 accounts will be combined and indicated accordingly. Second example, let's look for ranges. Let's say we wanted 10-100 all the way to 10-750, and again, same idea comes into effect. The last example, and this is the most highly utilized one, is the use of wildcards. This is going to allow you to mix and match the accounts you want to group together. Let's say we want any account with a leading 1. We'll put 4 question marks after that, and then let's say we don't want 10-200, and just like that, you'll see your values update again in real time. So again, this was Joe showing a simple trial balance, how you could connect to Velixo, how you could extract your data in real time. We changed the date ranges. And without further ado, I'm going to dive into that infamous sample pack report where we'll be spending the remaining time of the presentation today. So let's go ahead and connect into our instance. And once we do so, you'll see various reports. So you'll see sheets below here. So we have a P&L, a trailing P&L, income consolidated report, cash flow statement, and a few additional reports. What you'll also notice for this given report here, you'll see one branch, but you'll see a drop down. So let's say you were looking to see a different branch. You'll be able to toggle between branches at the click of a button. Same idea would be if you had multiple companies. Again, you can slice and dice these reports the way you want to because it's Excel at the end of the day. And just piggybacking on it being Excel, let's assume we wanted to create some visuals. Let's say I wanted a pie chart. You have a pie chart just like that of your total operating expenses. And let's assume we wanted to switch to a different branch. Again, you'll see that pie chart momentarily update in real time. So that being said, I'm going to dive into one of my favorite functionalities called Drilldown. Now, what does that allow you to do? Put simply, you can click on any cell within any one of your spreadsheets and go to that source transaction directly within Acumatica. So let's take an example. Let's extract our total operating expenses and let's find one transaction directly in Acumatica. So we're on the total operating expenses. I'm simply going to click on Drilldown. At this point, you will see a new sheet open up, and it's going to highlight all those transactions, what account it's coming from, financial period, branches, description, and of course the balances. I did emphasize we are connected into Acumatica. So let's take an example. Let's take this 201.73, and we're simply going to click on View Transaction. At that point, you will see we are redirected into the Acumatica ecosystem. We'll be in the account details section, if I'm not mistaken. Perfect. At this point here, we see a more granular view. So one at the Hilton, we see the ending balance. At that point, you can simply click on that original reference number. And from that point, you'll be able to go directly into that original PDF that you have uploaded into Acumatica. So again, that tied connectivity right into the transaction detail, then again, you can see that original invoice. All right, so let's just zoom in for a second. Seems like it's a little tired from lunch. All right. So as you'll see right here, and we have the full invoice, just like that. At this point, we can go back to our spreadsheet, and you'll even have that flexibility in clicking on drill back, and it's going to show us that this came from the travel category. So that being said, I'm going to dive into the next functionality for today, which is the ability to extract any single generic inquiry from Acumatica. When you start with Acumatica, I believe there's over 400 embedded generic inquiries. Your team might also want to create your own customized GI. If you do so, you can absolutely extract that from Acumatica. So let's go into our account and let's take an example of a GI and let's bring that to life within Excel. Let's go into payables. We'll take bills and adjustments as an example. And at this point, I'm not going to touch anything below whatsoever. You can modify the template as you see fit. I'm just going to click up top where it says Edit GI. We're not going to actually edit a thing. I'm simply going to copy that inquiry title, and then we'll bring that right back into Excel where we'll be spending, again, the remaining portion of our time today. So let's go ahead and wait for that to populate. All right, so we have our bills and adjustments. At this point, we're going back into Excel. Let's type equals GI for generic inquiry. At that point, we're just putting that connection name in again, and we're simply going to paste our inquiry title. Once I do so, you'll see in a matter of seconds, the entire inquiry will load in real time. Seems like it's taking a little bit longer than usual. Again, seems like it's a little bit tired from lunch, but we'll let that extract. And just like that, you'll see bills and adjustments is loaded in real time. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is a live connection into Acumatica. So if you wanted to, let's say you were looking for only vendor status and then currency, you can absolutely truncate that. And then from there, you can even create a filter, put that filter into the inquiry and ensure you extract only what you're looking for. So you could have multiple GIs, financial functions, project-related functions on one spreadsheet, and then just click on refresh like I highlighted before when we went through the financial functions. So that being said, let's switch gears a little bit and let's dive into the next functionality called report distribution. You'll see it right below here. Where can you find this? Where it says new list, this will be the template that populates. And this is an absolute machine if you're looking to send out reports or if your team is sending out reports on a manual basis right now, you don't have to do that anymore. You'll see that I filled out the appropriate fields for the presentation today, but it would just, if you click on new list, you'll see a template populate with the appropriate fields to input. First column, let's say we want to choose the format. You can choose Excel, PDF. You can have these reports being dynamic or static. You have full range flexibility on how you want to distribute these reports out, as you'll see below here. Following that, file name, self-explanatory. To that, tabs just based on the below sheets that we see here. If you're saving your reports to an online medium like OneDrive, SharePoint, you can just put the folder path right there and it will automatically distribute. Intended recipients. Now let me scroll to the right-hand side because you have even more flexibility. If you want to put these reports in the body of an email, you can do so. You can even pick and choose a piece of a report that you want to send out. Password protecting, and then you'll see here the last filter. I can pick and choose which individual will receive which branch. This is just one example of a filter. You can create your own filter when you want to send out your reports. When we're at the point where we're ready to distribute, it's as simple as clicking distribute all. And just like that, all the work is being done behind the scenes and these reports will be sent out in real time. We're only sending 7 reports out right now, so it should take 30 to 45 seconds. But if you're going to be sending out 30, 40, maybe 50 reports, it may take a couple of minutes. But at the end of the day, it's allowing you to automate your report distributions. A question that comes up every now and then is, can we automate our report sends? The answer is yes. All you have to do is set this up in your Windows Task Manager. We do it internally on our side, and we have the steps also available on our website. So as you'll see, reports have already sent out. Let's go back into Excel. Well, actually, let's go back into Outlook so I can actually show these reports. Take the first example right here. Let's say a CFO only wants to see the net sales in the body of an email, showing you an example. Next example. Let's say a CEO wants a full income consolidated report. Again, in the body of an email, just showing you another example. Last two are PDFs. So this here is sending it to a specific branch, so only Service West, and we've removed the budget. And the last example is a full consolidated report. And again, we extract whatever you have on the spreadsheet. So you can use conditional formatting. Again, that's just using Excel functions. Same idea as adding pie charts, tables. You might want to switch the static logo to your organization's logo. You can do so. And you don't have to worry. Whatever you have on the spreadsheet will automatically distribute. You don't necessarily even need to have any Velixo formulas in these reports that are being sent out. So that being said, I'm going to dive into the newest functionality we have added into Velixo, and this is the ability to push your data back from Excel directly into Acumatica. Where can you find it? Right up top. So you'll see Perform Writeback, but right next to that, you'll see different screens on what you can push back. So you can push back journal transactions, you can push back budget forecast, you can push back project forecast, and the newest and greatest is pushing back into any import scenario that you've already created. If we click on the first example, journal transaction, you'll see a template that populates. At this point, it's as simple as plugging and playing into the appropriate fields. When you're ready to push this back, simply click on Perform Writeback. I have an example as I'm sure most of you wanted to see one. So let's take a look at the liability insurance. And this was one of our first examples we created, and it actually came from a customer request. They said it's great that you can extract your data, but we want that ability to push back our data. We're spending a lot of time doing manual calculations and then clicking on that new entry, filling in all the fields, clicking submit one by one. So you'll see here this example where a calculation for this liability insurance, this customer had a provision on a monthly basis where they had to push these debit and credits amount back. And it was calculated by their revenue per location multiplied by the GL rate. So it was fairly time consuming for this customer. I'm going to show you all now how we can push this back. So let's modify this to 3.3. You'll see momentarily your debit amount, credit amounts update in real time. And at that point, let's assume we want to push back our journal entries. Simply click on Perform Writeback, and now your entries will be pushed back into Acumatica, and we'll even have a screen that populates in about a moment or so. As you'll see right here, once this populates, we'll be able to see the entries themselves. So let's go look on the right-hand side, 19,690, 2925, 10,709, and don't worry, it has not been released. All you'll have to do is click on Remove the Hold and then release it. Next example, highly utilized, is the budget writeback. This will allow you to push back any single budget, or you can update existing budgets. You can add budgets, full range flexibility. In our scenario, you'll see we've added 2 custom columns. You can modify the forecast. Let's say our COGS, it's going to be an expensive year. It's updating accordingly. If you have more of a weighted distribution, you can absolutely account for that. Again, just using standard Excel functionality. But when you're at the point where you want to push your budget back, just like we did before, click on Perform Writeback, and then your budget gets pushed back. You'll notice that I did not release this budget. You have that flexibility to do so, but most customers prefer to release their budget once they're in Acumatica. Last functionality I'll highlight today is generic writeback. This is the newest and greatest because this allows you to update any single import scenario you've already created. Highly utilized function. So once we click on generic writeback worksheet, you'll see a drop down of every single customized screen we've created. So it could be inventory, it could be sales commission, you'll see stock items. Let's say we click on stock items and then we click on create generic writeback worksheet. You'll see a template that populates based on the columns that have already been defined within Acumatica. At this point, you'll just update the appropriate fields. Once you're ready, click on Perform Writeback, and then it automatically distributes into Acumatica. And lastly, I do want to emphasize, I went through all the functionalities associated today with Velixo, but I do want to emphasize there is an abundant amount of resources with Velixo. We have a YouTube channel where we have 90 plus videos highlighting functionalities associated with Velixo. Again, the idea behind Velixo, we want customers to be able to build reports on their own, so you can reference all of these. The SWK team is highly knowledgeable with Velixo. Many individuals, I believe we have over 50 mutual customers already using Acumatica, Velixo, and SWK. And outside of that, those sample pack reports. So with that being said, happy to answer any questions that there might be.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Duffy. That was super informative and super interesting to see everything in action. I do have a couple questions for you. And while we're getting this together, everyone in the audience, we'd appreciate your participation in a quick poll. Just curious to know, what are your next steps? Are you interested in seeing a demo? Would you like to see a more in-depth presentation, really see the full power of the tool? Just schedule a meeting, get pricing. And thank you for everyone that's answered so far. And then Duffy, I'm gonna go ahead and get you started with some Q&A while we're letting these poll questions come in. So
Sure.
First, can you let me know how many users does the solution come with?
Oh, yes, great question. So we are aligned with Acumatica's model. So it's an unlimited user model. So doesn't matter how many employees need access, everyone will have access. And again, it's tied to each individual's permission rights that were set up within Acumatica.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And thank you for everyone that's in the poll. We're going to end that out now. And our next question I have is, do the people that you're sending reports to, so when you're doing those email reports, do those people have to have access to Acumatica to get those reports?
They do not have to have access to Acumatica to get the reports. They won't be able to click on that drill down functionality because they don't have those access rights into Acumatica, but they do not have to have access to Acumatica at all to receive those reports.
Okay. And then I think our last question, unless we have a last minute submission, is from a current user of the program. So they're current Velixo user, and they're saying that they have a older taskbar, I think. So they have an Acumatica tab, but not the Velixo tab, or an out-of-date tab. Do you have a solution for how they can fix that, or next step to get that solved?
Of course. If you can put your contact information into the message bar, we will have your customer success manager, Taliba Gordon, reach out with the steps. But essentially, all you'll have to do is go into the Velixo page itself. There's something called Insider Edition. It's as simple as clicking that, and then everything will be updated with the new ribbon bar and the newer functionalities.
Great, yes. And if that was your question, I've got your info, so we will have the FC or SWK rep reach out to you and make sure we get that fixed for you. And so I think that is going to conclude. Just a quick Q&A at the end. If you do have a question that comes to mind after the presentation, just reach out to your SWK rep. We'll connect you with Jeff. We'll connect you with the Velixo team and get all your questions answered. With that said, we really appreciate everyone that took a little bit of time out of their day to spend time with us and get to learn about this great solution. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye now.